Hi, and welcome to Computerized Accounting, Accounting 1115. All right, so we are wrapping up, excuse me, we're wrapping up Learning Module 6. Just a quick review, Learning Module 6, we did Chapter 8, which is Budgets and Bank Reconciliations. Last week, we worked in our test drive mode, going through the steps in our textbook to kind of familiarize ourselves with how to create a budget, how to run budget reports, and we also looked into bank reconciliations and how to complete a bank reconciliation. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be taking case 1 from chapter 8, which is part of your homework assignment. And in this video, I will be actually going through the steps of case 1 together in my company so that you can see how to complete the steps for your company. And of course, you have a case 1 and a case 2 for your homework assignment. Case 2 is similar enough to case 1 that you should be able to follow the same instructions to complete your case 2 assignment, and hopefully be able to navigate through the steps. All right, so I've opened up the assignment out of for assignment 6, case 1. So it's time to create a budget and to reconcile a bank account. Okay, so based on what we learned in the text using the sample company, we're going to make changes to our case 1 company. All right. So the first thing it tells us to do in step 1 is it wants us to add an invoice. All right, so to add an invoice, we're going to come up to the plus new button. All right, we're going to come under customers and we're going to click on invoice. It tells us what date it wants us to use. So we're going to change the date. All right, it wants us to use January 30th, 2024. The terms is net 30. So we're going to, we make sure we update the invoice date and we use the credit terms of net 30, which then will make the due date 30 days from the invoice date. The customer it wants us to use is Blondie's Boards. All right. So what we're going to come down here is under the product and service, we're going to start selecting the items that are going to be on this invoice. All right. So again, what is an invoice? An invoice is a bill that we send to our customer for products and services that we have provided them. This invoice that we send to them will be used for them to verify that they did in fact receive the products and services that we're billing them for, and then they can use that to pay us when the invoices come due. Okay, so the first item it wants us to add is the Fred Rubble. So we're going to scroll down here and look for the Fred Rubble. And we're going to include a quantity of 4. Okay, so we're billing them for 4 Fred Rubbles. Next is the Water Hog. So we'll come down to the Water Hog. We'll update the quantity, this 7 Water Hog. And then the last item is the Rook 15. And we're going to bill them for 8 Rook 15s. Okay, so all right, so to add this invoice, we just simply click save and close. So we're going to come up here and we're going to choose save and close. And now the invoice has been saved. Okay. All right, step 2, it wants us to add a second invoice. So we'll go back to the plus new, come to customer, scroll down to invoice. All right. The date they want us to choose now is January 31st. We will continue with the net 30 for our credit terms. All right, but we're going to create a new customer. Okay, so we're going to click the add new up here, and the customer is called the Surf Rider Foundation. Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and click save to add that customer. Okay. All right, so we've updated our we've added the new customer, and we've updated, make sure the credit terms are net 30, changed our invoice date to the 31st. So it's going to, it shows that we're billing them for 100 hours of consulting. Okay, 100 hours of consulting. Let's come down here to the product service, click on the drop down menu, select consulting, and we're going to change the quantity to 100. Okay, so we're invoicing them, we're sending them a bill for 100 hours of consulting. Okay, once you've completed that, go ahead and click save and close. So we've now just added 2 new invoices. All right, now It wants us to create a new budget. Okay. So how do we create a new budget? Well, we're going to come up here to the gear icon, and we're going to come under tools, and we're going to select budgeting. All right. So we remember this window popped up when we were in our sample company. So we know we're going to click on the green add button. All right. So it tells us to title our budget, budget 1. Okay. All right. It also says to be sure that FY24, which is January 24 to December 24, is selected. So we're going to scroll down and we're going to find FY24, which is January 2004 to December 2004. So we're going to select that. All right. From the fiscal year drop down list. All right, so we're not going to change anything else. All right, we're going to make sure we titled it budget 1, and we make sure that we select fiscal year FY24, which is January 24 to December 24. All right, now we're ready to come down here and click next. All right, so in step 3, it tells us what amounts we're going to budget. So we are going to start with sales. So we're going to come over here to sales, and we're going to enter the amount 4,000. Okay. It does tell us that the amounts provided should be input for each month for 2024. So we know if we want to copy it across, all we have to do is click on the blue arrow. So we'll go ahead and click on the blue arrow, and it automatically copies it across. Okay. Next is services. So services, it wants us to enter 3,000. And we're going to go ahead and copy that across the board. So we have sales, services. All right. Now we're going to go down here to the costs of goods sold. All right. And looking at the instructions, we're just going to select cost of goods sold here. Okay. So sometimes you may have to double click into the cell to get the mouse to move, but that's fine. Just kind of click in there twice. And the amount we're going to budget. Sales is 4,000. Cost of goods sold 23,500. All right. And again, you might have to double click on that arrow to get it to move. All right, there we go. All right. All right, so we're going to go ahead and scroll down. And you can also, don't forget to kind of save intermittently while you're doing this. This is just a tip that I've learned. A lot of times when you're entering a lot of data in on the page, sometimes it's good to remember to kind of save intermittently just to make sure if something happens, you get kicked out of the internet, program just shuts down for no reason. All that work you did isn't lost. All right, so we're going to continue, and now we're going to scroll down to our expenses. And the first expense it wants us to enter is interest expense. All right, so you will just scroll down and we will look for interest expense. So kind of just double click into the cell to get it to open up. And we're going to enter 600 for interest expense. All right, there we go. Payroll, we may have to go back up for payroll. See your note, we have, maybe it's further down. Here we go, payroll expenses, here we go. All right, so payroll expenses, we're going to budget 12,000. All right, so maybe make sure you click to drag it, copy it across the board. Yeah, all right. So next is rent, rent expense. So it says rent or lease. So if yours is rent or lease, either one is fine. Mine says rent. So I'm going to double click in that cell, give it a minute to catch up. All right, and rent, that's 2,500 a month. All right. Computer's really slow today. All right, travel's next. So we're going to click in our travel cell. And that's 500. Okay, I'll go ahead and click. All right. And last will be utilities. So we'll just scroll on down to utilities and double click in the cell. All right, here we go. Utilities, 200 a month. All right, double click. All right. All right, so we have now created our budget. Okay. Make sure I enter the amounts correctly. All right, so services is wrong. All right, so let's go back up. There was not enough zeros. That's 40,000. So you can make an easy correction, right? All right, there we go. So there we go. All right. So once you've double checked to make sure your amounts are correct, all right, you're ready to click save. So we can go ahead and click save. All right, so now budget 1 that we titled is now saved. So we can go ahead and exit out. All right, so now we see our budget for fiscal year 2024. All right, so in step 4, it wants us to create and customize and then save the customization for the budget overview of budget 1. So now we want to go into our reports. So we're going to come over here to reports. And remember, we came up here and all we have to do is type in the word budget and the 2 budget reports that are available to us come up. So we're going to go ahead and click on budget overview because that's what it wants us to use in step 4. Now it says to create and customize and then save the customization as budget overview, budget 1. It does tell you to print. Do not print. There's no need to print. Okay, don't print it. But I do want you to export it. But we'll talk about how to export it, not as an Excel, please, but as a PDF. All right. Now it says to customize it so that it looks like figure 8.16. Okay. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to come up here, we're going to click customization. All right. Now, looking at figure 8.16, all right, the budget overview, budget 1, definitely only shows totals. So I know we're going to immediately come over here and we're going to select accounts versus total. Okay. So that's the first thing we're going to do, and then click run the report. All right. So now we're going to look at it and now we're going to compare it. And I'm still seeing an error. So let's come over here and let's figure out. All right. No, we're good. All right. So what we did, first of all, what we did. All right. So we went ahead and changed it so that it doesn't show every single month. It just shows the grand total. But again, we're looking at the grand total for the whole year, January to December. Okay. So if we continue looking at figure 8.16, we see that the budget overview is only for the month of January. So we're going to go back up to customize, and we're going to change this, all right, to where it's only the month of January. Okay. So I'm changing the to and from. Okay. Changing the to and from. So it's only going to show me the month of January. Okay. And click run report again. So now let's look at it and compare. Now it look exactly like figure 8.16. Our totals should look the same. Our title up here should be the same. Okay. Obviously this is going to be different because it's your company, but the budget, the title of the report and the period, the accounts and your amounts should all match figure 8.16. Okay. If this matches and everything looks good, I want you to come up here and I want you to export to PDF. Okay. Export to PDF. Do not do it to Excel and the instructions say, please do it to PDF. All right. And then of course we're going to up here and we're going to click save customization. All right. And so we can just name it budget 1. Yeah, it says to save it as budget overview, budget 1. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and just click save right here. Okay. Try that again. Oh, okay. I know what I have to do. All right. So we'll take that out, and then we have to take out the semicolon. All right. There we go. Budget overview, budget 1. Now we're able to click save. Okay. There we go. So that report has now been saved. So we ran the budget overview. We were able to customize it. We wanted to look at the accounts versus the totals. We didn't want to see all the months. All right. And then we even customized even more, and we only wanted to capture the amount that we budgeted for January. All right. And again, you're ready. And once you're done, you're ready to export it to PDF, and you will upload it as part of your homework assignment. All right. All right. So now we're ready to go to step 5. So again, we're going to go back to reports. We'll go back to our report list, and let's type in the word budget again. All right. Now, look, now we have 3 budgets. All right. Because we created a customized budget. Okay. But this time we're going to select the budget versus actual. So we'll click on that. All right. So now what we're seeing is we're seeing what we actually reported, all right, in our transactions, and what we budgeted for, and if we are over or under budget, and then what percentage of the budget have we used? What percentage of the budget have we used? All right. So just like with the overview, it wants us to customize the budget versus actual report. Okay. So now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be comparing it to figure 8.17. All right. So go back to customization. So in the grid, we're going to go ahead and change it to accounts versus actual accounts versus total. Because if you look in figure 8.17, it doesn't have a month, it has total at the top. So I know that means it wants us to change this to accounts versus total. Let's go ahead and click run report and see what that happens. So see, now we're seeing actual versus budget, but we're not done yet because it's pulling the budget totals for the whole year and our actual totals for the whole year. Well, let's think about what we've done so far in our company. We've only done transactions for the month of January, haven't we? We've not done transactions for the whole year. So we don't want to compare our actual to the whole year budget amount. All right. So we need to go back up to customize. And just like we did the overview, we're going to change our months from and to. Okay. And we only want to pull the information for the month of January. Okay, for the month of January. So let's go ahead and let's click run report again. All right, so now when we compare our budget versus actual report to figure 8.17, our totals should match. Okay, so let's talk about what we're looking at. This is what we've actually reported in our transactions so far. Okay, this is what we've actually reported. You may be asking yourself, why did we do those 2 invoices? All right, well, remember, we talked about the matching principle way back in Financial Accounting 1, all right, where we have to make sure that we record all the revenue in the period in which the revenue occurred. It's also important that we record all the expenses in the period in which they occurred, because we want to be able to properly match our revenue to our expenses. So we had 2 invoices that obviously had not been entered yet, and we wanted to go ahead and get those entered so they would reflect in our sales and services revenue, so we can get an accurate depiction of our actual versus what we budgeted for in the month of January. So we see here that we projected a total of $43,000 in income. Okay, we've only recorded $19,850 in income for the month of January. So we are so with that minus sign right there, it tells us that we're actually under budget, $23,150. All right. And if we come over here, this percentage says that we've only met 46% of our budget goal for income. Okay, we've only met 46%. So in other words, so in income, It's a goal of like you're trying to achieve. You want to get to this $43,000 and hopefully maybe even exceed it. Okay, because this is income. So the more income, the better. So how I would read this, or if I were disclosing this information to my boss, I would say, well, we've only met 40%, or 40%, 46% of our goal for our budget, our forecast income for the month of January. Okay, because income is a little different from expenses. Okay, income is a goal you want to achieve. You want to maximize and get 100%. You want this to be 100%. You want this to be 100%. Okay. Now let's talk about expenses. All right. So expenses, the first one is total cost of goods, right? So our total cost of goods, we show again under budget. We budgeted 23,500 a month for cost of goods sold, but we only recorded 10,400 in cost of goods sold. All right. Now cost of goods sold is an expense, but it's very similar to income. All right. It's very similar to income because the more items you sell, the more revenue you make. So when it comes to cost of goods sold, let's think about that. That's an actual expense we want to get 100% at, because if we had reached 100% of our budgeted amount for cost of goods sold, we would have reached 100% in our sales. Okay, we would have reached 100% in our sales. All right, because remember, every time we record the sale of a merchandise item, it simultaneously records an entry to cost of goods sold. So if you remember back when we did inventory and we talked about perpetual versus periodic inventory systems. All right, this system right here that we're using is a perpetual inventory system, and that every time we record a sales transaction, whether it be a sales receipt or an invoice, okay, and we sell a product, it automatically updates our inventory on hand. Okay, so it automatically reduces our inventory on hand, reducing our merchandise inventory total. All right, and it records an entry to our cost of goods sold expense account showing that item has been sold. So pretty much, so just remember, it's everything above gross profit. Our goal is to actually reach 100% of our budget. All right, everything below gross profit is expenses, and those we do not want to go over. We want to stay under. All right, so it's good to show that we're under budget. All right, it's good to show we're under budget. And if we look at our total expenses, we can see right off the bat, all right, just looking at the total expenses, we went over budget. We've gone over budget on our expenses, and we actually went over 6%. 6%. All right, so you see that right here. All right, we went over budget by 6%. So in other words, not only did we spend 100% of our budgeted expenses, but we spent 6% more. So we're over budget by 6%. Okay. So that's how we read this report. That's how we interpret this report. And this is how we would maybe try to communicate what we're seeing on this report to maybe our superiors. You know, we only attained 46% of our budgeted income, or we only attained 48.4 or 48.5, or however you want to word it, percent of our budgeted gross profit for the month, you know. So we exceeded our budgeted expenses by 6.5% for the month of January. We went over. Okay, so that's kind of how I would report that. All right, so since we know our report looks good, it matches the figure 8.17. We're going to go ahead and click Save Customize Reports. All right, so I'm going to take out the fiscal year and take out the semicolon and go ahead and click Save. So I've now saved my custom report. And then I want you to also, just like with your overview, the budget versus actuals, I want you to export it as PDF, because that will be what you will upload as part of your homework assignment. Okay. All right. It also wants you to export a transaction detail by account report. It says to Excel, but please do it to PDF, and also upload that as part of your homework as well. All right. We all know how to do a transaction detail by account report, so I will not go through those steps. So I want to go ahead and move on to step number 8. And step number 8 is when we are going to now reconcile our company's checking account. All right, so I want to go back up to the gear icon. All right, come under tools, and we're going to select reconcile. All right. Now we are not going to connect accounts to reconcile, so do not click connect now. You may watch the video to see how it works if you so choose. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to click the green get started button. Okay. So go ahead and exit out of that. All right. So now we'll start filling in the blanks. All right. I believe the account we use is called checking. So we want to make sure we select the correct account. All right. So we're going to select checking account. Okay. So the ending bank statement balance, so that's what we're going to end here. The ending bank statement balance, it says to put in 29,202.37. All right, using the January 31st, 2024 date. All right, it says also that no service charges were incurred or interest earned. So we will not record any service charges or any interest earned. So we will leave this blank. Okay. So we'll go ahead and click Start Reconciling. All right. All right, so step 9, it says after a review of the company's most recent bank statement and a comparison with the company's checking account, you discover some checks and payments recorded in the checking account that did not appear on the bank statement. Okay, so first thing we're going to do in step 9, all right, is we're going to reconcile the checks. So we're going to go ahead and just click on payments, and we can just exit out of all this. Okay, so payments. So these would be all of our checks. Okay, all of our checks that we have written. All right. So it tells us to select a check on all except, so we're going to select yes, all. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to select all. All right. It says place a check next to all checks and payments except for check number 1009. Uncheck it. All right. That was for Ben. That was his payroll check. And then we're also going to uncheck check number 10. All right. So let's talk about this for a minute. This makes really good sense. These were payroll checks that we wrote on the last day of the month to Ben and Betsy. So since we literally wrote them on the last day of the month, they have not had a chance to clear the bank. All right. So it makes sense to me that they would still be considered outstanding checks. And so most of the time, I would say 99.9% of the time, any check you write on the last day of the month is going to be considered an outstanding check when you go to do your bank reconciliation, because it has not had time to go to the bank and clear the bank, go through the whole process and clear the bank. So they're probably going to be outstanding. And most likely when you get your bank statement for the month of February, those are probably the first 2 checks that have cleared the bank that you'll be able to check off. Okay. So, all right. So now if you look here, you know, we have our difference has gotten even larger. All right. So, let's go to deposits. Okay. All right. So it says after a review of the company's most recent bank statement and a comparison of all the company's checking account, you discover some deposits and other credits recorded in the checking account that did not appear in the bank statement. So we're going to place a check on all. So we're going to say yes, select all. of the deposits except for, okay, except for the deposit on January 8th from Blondie's boards for $1,300. So that one has not cleared the bank. That one we're going to show as a deposit in transit. And if we look at it, it's still sitting in our undeposited fund account because we haven't even taken it to the bank yet. Okay, we haven't even taken it to the bank yet. So we can tell right now just by looking at what account it's in, the undeposited fund account, that it's still waiting to be taken to the bank. All right, so we're still going to label it a deposit in transit because it's money that we have recorded to our account, but it just hasn't been taken to the bank yet. All right. So if you notice something, when we unchecked that, our difference became 0 and we have a green check mark. So yay, that means that we have reconciled our checking account to our bank statement. We've identified what checks are outstanding and what deposits are in transit. We had no transactions on our bank statement that were not in QuickBooks. That is very good. If you had transactions on your bank statement that were not in QuickBooks, that means that for whatever reason, your process was not efficient and transactions got overlooked and were not recorded. Okay. It is, so that's another issue that you would want to address and you would want to correct, and you would want to make sure that you have properly recorded all of your transactions. So if you go through this bank reconciliation and it's still not a green check mark, then that's a red flag that we need to go back and look at to determine, what's happened. Did I not record a transaction? Did I miss a step? Did something get recorded wrong? Okay. And if you do have that and you're having a hard time figuring out or finding the error, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be glad to help you. I'll go ahead and click on all right quickly so that you can see a list of everything that on my screen, and hopefully be able to maybe pause this video or freeze it, whatever you need to do, screenshot it, so that you can stop and then compare it to your numbers to make sure that they match, and maybe figure out where the issue is that's causing you to still have a difference. Okay. But once you're done and you do have a 0 difference and you have the green check mark, we're ready to go ahead and click finish now. It says you reconciled this account, so we're going to go ahead and click done. Okay. So you can come up here and click on summary. All right. And we can see that there was a checking account. Okay. All right. So when you click on that, and then it opens up the reconciliation report. All right. So I showed you this when we were doing the process in test drive mode. It does not give us the option to export as PDF. So hopefully you have the ability to print to PDF. Okay. So if you do have the ability to go down to click on your drop down menu for printer, select PDF, and then click PDF, what it'll do is it'll do the same thing. It'll still export it as PDF that you can save as a PDF and upload for your homework. If you do not have that ability, please leave me a note to let me know that you don't have the ability to print to PDF. Okay. But you can click on summary to open the report. You can click, and I just showed you again. You can click on, so let's just kind of back up a little bit. All right, so I'm going to go back in. I'm going to click on this. All right, so this was the beginning screen. All right, so first time I did it, I clicked on summary. All right, I clicked on summary, and then you just kind of come in here and double click to open it up, right? Another way you can do it is you can click on history by account. All right, history by account, and then come over here and click view report. Okay. And then of course you have the option to print or undo. All right, so you can click on view report, and when you click on view report, you have the little printer icon. And again, if you can print to PDF, please do, and upload it as an attachment for your homework. Okay. All right, so once all this is done, you are done with your homework assignment. That is it for this chapter. So yay, we did a good job. All right, so good job, guys. If you made it all the way through, we're done with chapter 8. So you'll just need to complete case 2 and upload all of your attachments to your homework assignments. And we're ready to start the next learning module. Just a reminder, next week is spring break. So we will not have any lectures next week. So we will be starting learning module 7 when we return from spring break. So I hope everybody has a good spring break, and I will hopefully talk to you guys when we come back.